Hi, I'm Jim Raffle. Welcome to this episode of the Jim and Shelby Show, all things print podcast. And I'm joined, as almost always, by.
Almost always. It's pretty much always lately, hasn't it?
Sure.
Sometimes I'm behind the camera, I
Well,
guess.
careful. We can fix that next week.
It's just be the Jim show. You'd love that, wouldn't you?
No, fortunately, I have a very small ego, and I'm a very humble person. So, anyway, what's your name?
Oh yeah, Shelby Sabusic. Sorry. Can you tell it's Friday? This is worse than when we start on the weekend.
It is. It is. So, I think today or this week, we wanted to talk about speaking, public speaking, particularly, and um, obviously in the context of print, because this is the All Things Print podcast. But I think also just in the concept of if you have a small business, and I think a lot of our listeners do, the value of speaking publicly and maybe some of our tips and tricks for how we end up doing that as frequently as we do. And I honestly don't know if I'd want to do it any more than I already do it. It's one of those things I thought, oh, it'd be cool to make a living as a public speaker, and I'm not so sure that's where my head's at anymore. It's like most things, it always looks better from the outside looking in than from the inside looking out. Um, but yeah, why don't we start, Shelby, kind of as a talking point. I'm gonna go to share. I'm gonna try and share. There we go. Let's see if this works. So everything's working. I should be sharing the Color Casters website and specifically our events page. So Shelby, and I know you just recently updated this, so why don't you take folks through where we're going to be and what we're going to be talking about, and then we can talk about how we made some of these speaking engagements happen.
Well, first of all, I want to mention that on this page, if you go to Colorcasters and hit the events tab, this is not only where we list our speaking engagements, but also all of our training. So if we have something coming up and you want to know, if, hey, do we have anything coming up this year or in my region, this is a good first place to go. And I always link to where you can register either for the event or the training session. So right now, what we have going on is, September is trade show season for us. And so we're going to be spending, boy, Jim, almost 2 weeks on the road together coming up here, another month or so. First thing we're going to do is stop into Nashville. We're going to UV Energize, which is a PDS equipment event. The trade show itself is September 4th and 5th, but they have an educational day on the 3rd. Education continues throughout the event on the 4th and 5th as well, but the 3rd is basically just education. What's
Mhm.
great about this show, it's $25 to register. And it's not one of these huge trade shows. It is obviously UV specific. But Jim and I are speaking, let's see, on Tuesday during the educational day. We're both speaking at 2, but separately. So first, Jim's going to be talking about the future is now, artificial intelligence and graphic design, which is interesting because I'm the graphic design person in our little group here, but Jim actually has more experience with AI, so it is cool. He's going to be doing this panel with Carissa Turi of Mamaki USA. At the same time, I'm going to be doing the true power of raster length, untapped potential, and color control, and I'm going to be helping Michael Gass of PDS Equipment with that panel. Then
So
on
I,
Wednesday,
I
and go
I
ahead.
want to interrupt really quick. It's
Sure.
probably too late to sign up for PDS.
Is it?
Well, I think today is the cutoff, so by the time,
Okay.
but oh, it's always worth checking. You'll just be able to click on this link right here, and if it's still available, then go ahead and sign up. But sometimes they extend it. But I just wanted to make sure I covered that. So I'm sorry, you were talking about
No,
when.
that's okay. Wednesday and Thursday, the trade show floor is open from 10 to 4, and Jim and I will have a booth. There's a customer appreciation networking event. The whole event itself is at the Westin in downtown Nashville. And so this customer appreciation party or event is at the rooftop lounge that night from 7 to 10. Thursday, we will be back on the show floor at 10 to 4. But before that, from 9 to 10, I will again be teaming up with Michael Gass and Carissa Turi of Mamaki to talk about Adobe and Rasterlink for UV.
I guess I get to set the booth up.
Or you can be the one taking video for once.
Anyway, and then what's after that? The next week, very next
We
week.
are going straight from Nashville to Las Vegas. So we are being road warriors for these 2 weeks. Printing United is September 10th through 12th, and it's in the Las Vegas Convention Center. I'm still filling out our calendar for this one, but I do know we are going to have the Confident Color Game Show. How confident are you about your color knowledge? And that's going to be on Tuesday, September 10th at noon in room S231. It's an educational session. It's put on by Printing United. It's outside of the trade show floor. It is a paid session. I don't know how much,
Unless you're a
but
member. If you're a
unless you
member,
remember, that's
if you're a
correct.
member of Printing United Alliance, we just covered this on a different call I was on.
Mhm.
If you're a member of Printing United Alliance, all of these educational sessions are free. It's a member benefit. I think individual memberships are like all of $100 a year. So it's
Might be worth it.
yeah, it might be worth it.
There's a lot of good educational sessions this year. I was kind of going through them briefly when I was looking to see what room we were in the other day.
So yeah,
Um,
this is Tuesday.
yes.
On Wednesday all day, the Academy of Screen and Digital Print Technologies, which I'm a member of, is
Mhm.
hosting a full day of training. I don't know the room number, but we have a full day of training all put on by Academy members. And so I think that's the first time. It's going to be interesting. We're going to add some information about that here. We just
Yes.
got it
Mhm.
literally an hour ago. So we'll get, by the time you guys visit this page, it might be there. Um, and then for anyone who's interested, the Academy's, for the first time, I think ever, the Academy's induction ceremony and awards ceremony is going to be open to the public. It's going to occur at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, I'm almost sure. 4 o'clock on Tuesday in the apparel zone. And from about 4 to 4:30, I know Ford Bowers is actually going to be uh, offering up, he's going to induct some of the new members. And I think we're allowed to talk about the fact that one of the new members, and I don't care if we're not, always easier to beg for forgiveness. One of the new members is our customer, colleague, friend, Susan Cox of LogoJet. She's the founder and president, CEO. I don't know if she's the president. I know she's the CEO of LogoJet. And so she is a recently inducted member. She's technically, I guess, not a member until she gets inducted, but it's semi-public knowledge at this point. There are two other new members, so come find out who they are. There's a bunch of awards that the Academy presents every year, so those will be presented there as well.
Great. And there will be some other things I think that we will be around in different booths doing things. I don't have all the information yet, so check back because I'm going to be filling those things in over the next couple weeks. And if you are interested in meeting with us, especially at Printing United where we don't have a booth and it might be harder to find us, please email me at shelby@colorcasters.com.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
And
back to our topic.
well, and okay, so a lot of people have not people, not a lot of people occasionally ask me to be more realistic about it. How do you end up with all these speaking opportunities? And there is no single answer to that, but I'm just going to use these two as examples from my perspective, and Shelby's obviously going to chime in with her perspective. Let's talk about UV Energize. So UV Energize is put on by PDS. The driving force behind PDS is Steve Weiss. Obviously, it's not Steve by himself. He'd be the first guy to tell you who has a team, and he's just the guy standing up front. But he is the driving force of that organization right now, and so I've been interacting with him both, in person at trade shows and in through social media for years. I would go as far as to say almost a decade. And several, I think now 3 years ago, he asked us if we would like to be a sponsor of the UV Energize event in Nashville. Yeah, because this is our third time going. So he asked if he wanted to be a sponsor. And so we showed up as a sponsor, and all that basically got us was a booth and some space on the trade show floor. And he's putting on all these great educational sessions, and we're like, it would be kind of cool if you had a color session. And so last year he kind of worked us into a couple of the sessions, and you can see that, this year we're being featured. And so, how does that happen? And a lot of people, oh, well, he's just putting you on the stage because you're paying. That's completely not true. Obviously you do need to be a sponsor to get put on a stage and help present a session. Although I think that's not even true. There's some people there who want sponsors, but the reality is that he got to know us, and he got to trust that when we're on the stage, we present information, not sales pitches. And because it can be challenging to not sell from the front of the room. You know, I'm I try very hard. I'm sure I still do it from time to time, but I try very hard to not sell from the front of the room. And Steve picked up on that, and as a result, also developed some respect for our knowledge level because we helped some of his clients. And so those are the types of events where we're tapped to speak. The people reach out to us and ask us to speak. They're harder in a way because you have to develop the relationship. They're easier because you're just asked to speak, and you figure out what you're going to speak about, and you get up there and do it, right? And does that seem like a fair appraisal of how we
It
do?
is. One thing I will say about, not selling, when we are going into color management and color management consulting, a lot of times we're using examples with software and spectrophotometers, tools. And so we do get asked like, hey, can I buy that? Where can I get it? And we're not going to sit there and be like, nope, can't tell you because we're not trying to sell you anything. I mean, we have to kind of guide them to where they can obtain these things to help them out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. And then when it comes to Printing United, uh, we actually ended up, well, in similar paths there. Printing United is a trade show that puts out basically a call for speakers. And it's usually not long after the previous year's show. It's usually, 9 or 10 months before the next show is going to occur. They put out a call for speakers, and you basically prepare a proposal, and you submit that proposal. And, Shelby and I have done some talking and writing around that isn't quite available yet, but the gist of it from our perspective is you can't phone that in, as the expression goes. You've got to really take your time, think through what you want to talk about. You know, we try every year to come up with a unique new topic, or at least a unique spin on an existing topic, so that when they read through it, they don't go, oh geez, this is the same one they submitted last year, and yeah, we
Mhm.
accepted it last year, but we really don't want a rerun of last year. Or this is another thing you have to be careful about. In our industry, it's a small industry. And if you're a printer selling into another industry, this may or may not be the case. But in our industry, oftentimes the committees that are selecting the educational sessions for some of the big and even small regional trade shows are the same people. And so
Right.
if you start submitting a proposal to Printing United, and a week later submit it to another trade show and another trade show and another trade show, and you don't change anything, um,
It'll get noticed.
it'll get noticed by somebody at some point. And
Mhm.
so each and every one of these should be unique, and special. Again, it doesn't have to be a complete start over, but you should definitely try and tailor that proposal to the audience that you're going to be speaking to. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, in my opinion. So
Well, and it's interesting because we did, if you remember, propose two different presentations to Print United.
I do.
And one of them was not boring, but it was run of the mill. It was, it wasn't, it was going to be a straightforward presentation, right?
Mhm.
And it was going to be a different take, but it was, here's what we're going to talk about. Here you go. The
Mhm.
other one was what got accepted, the confident color, how confident are you color about your color game show, So we're going to be presenting it in kind of a quiz show manner, and that's the one they accepted. Now, we've never done that before. And what's nice about it is even though it's going to be in a different format, we've been teaching confident color all year long.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the content for the quiz show is going to come from material that we've already created. It's our unique content, and we're going to take it and reformat it into a game show scenario, basically.
I'll take your word for it. Shelby's responsible for that one. And then the other one, which is through the academy. Once the academy was, well, so I'm part of the marketing committee within the academy, and our committee came up with this idea of, hey, let's to raise the awareness level of the academy, let's present an educational track, a whole track. And so they gave us a day, they gave us a room, them being Printing United, because we're part of Printing United. And as part of the marketing committee, I submitted a proposal for, it's basically how artificial intelligence impacts color. That's it's, which is interesting because
Ties
it's
into your UV Energize. It's almost like, that's your topics for this trade show season, is
that's my
AI.
that's my 2024 topic, right? And so
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, and so, that one, there was still a submission process. I had to prepare a proposal just like we would to speak at Printing United. It first went through the Academy Marketing Committee, which is, don't think just because I'm one of them that gave me instant approval. I guarantee you it did not. And then once we picked five, I think, yeah, we picked five. I guess there's six now. We added a sixth. There's six presentations over the course of the day in that room, all put on by Academy members. And uh, we still had to submit those to Printing United, and they had to approve them. Now, it wasn't like we had to submit 12 and they were going to pick six. We submitted the five that we wanted, and then the sixth one got added late, but we submitted the five they wanted, and they approved all five. If they hadn't approved one of the five, it might have been mine, then we had to go back to the drawing board. So, typically you aren't going to get up on the stage in the front of a room, especially if you're new to this. You're going to have to go through some trials and tribulations and jump through some hoops. Uh, and I think that most people, as they speak more, they do start to get asked to speak more, and they get requests to speak. Sometimes we even get paid. It's obviously it's not very frequent, but it does happen. And so we view it as part of our marketing. We speak because it's marketing. Now, speaking is very different than training, and I don't want to make this podcast be 2 hours long, but public speaking is very different than training. It doesn't mean we don't provide information from the front of the room when we're speaking. We do, but not in the same way that we do if you're there for a half day or a full day or multi-day training session. And I bring that up because I'm at the end. We talked about, I think, in our last episode, I'm at the end of 3 weeks of training every single week. So 3 weeks ago, we did I guess technically 2 weeks ago, we did a 1 day confident color training course in New Jersey. Last week, we did 2 days of color management professional fundamentals training at 3M. I'm sorry, no, no.
Oh, that was
I'm
G7.
sorry. I'm
It was a
sorry. It was three,
full
three, 3 days of G7 expert training, which is just me by myself at the
too
front
much
of the.
training, Jim, too much.
Right. That's the point. And then this week, later, after pretty much shortly after this, we're done recording this podcast. I have the last day, 4 hours of
Mhm.
G7 plus live online training. Um, so I can tell you that what we deliver in those environments is very different than what we deliver from the front of the room. From the front of the room, we try to inform, but we also try to entertain. I mean, that's why we're doing a game show, right? I mean, it has to
Right.
be a combination of information and entertainment, or you're not going to fill a room. Yeah.
All right, Jim, let's end this with a question, and I'm going to ask you a question, but I will answer it as well. Are you ready? We haven't done this in a while.
Oh boy.
What
I'm
is your advice? Now, I would say that we have built relationships and our names are known in the communities now as speakers. And so sometimes I think, we do get asked back because of our previous experience as speakers. What would your advice be to someone who's trying to build those relationships to get their first speaking gig, especially in a big trade show environment?
it's pretty easy. Well, the answer is easy. You pretty much have to go on a hunt for calls for speaking. So in other words, you have to identify the major and minor shows in your industry that you would want to speak at over the course of the next 2 years. that's, and I know it sounds like a long way out, but remember that they're doing the call for speaking typically is 9 or 10 months before the event. So if you start today, you probably won't speak for 12 months or close to it.
Mhm.
Now the thing is, once you put your name out there and you become very active, you might be surprised. You might get a couple gigs, a couple opportunities in between now and a year, but it's going to probably take you close to a year to get your first one, and you may only get one in the first cycle. So you may speak once in the next 12 in the next 24 months, 18 to 24 months. If you start today, you might only speak once on a stage at a trade show. If you submit 10 proposals, you might only get one. Now you might get 4 or 5 too, but it's the you pretty much have to start where you are, which is right now, and you've got to start submitting proposals. If you don't know where to submit them, then that's your first step, is to go do the research. It's not very hard anymore with Google and the internet. You've got to find those calls for speaking at the events you want to speak at. If you go to the event website and there's nothing there about speaking, look for the information email address and send an email in. If you know anyone in the association, call them and say, hey, do you know who's taking care of the speaking calendar? I'd really like to submit a proposal. And then the hard part, like we said at the very beginning, don't phone it in. Take your time. Create that proposal like you're creating a resume for the job you absolutely positively want. And you wouldn't phone that in. You might take a day or two to do that really correctly. So that's my answer. What's yours?
Um, Mine would be if you are stuck, like if you don't know what that proposal should be, if you don't know what they're looking for, go to the trade show or the event and go to the speaking presentations that are happening there and take a look at what they're talking about. Take a look at the topics. How are they presented it? Is it a panel discussion? Are there demos? Are we doing like a game show? And what is attractive to people and how are people engaged? And then afterwards, go up and try to have a conversation with the speakers. Get their business card, because they're experienced, right? Build a relationship with them. See if you can get them to help you get recommendations for speaking too. And you'll find that as you go to more speaking engagements, you're going to meet people who have been speaking for a long time, and you will gain some knowledge from that.
Okay. I love it. That's great stuff. So I think I'm just looking at a calendar. I think if things go well, this will get posted on, I think, the 2nd of
I think so.
August.
Yes.
And then I think we'll be up to the 16th. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to talk about on the 16th, but we will figure something out between now and then. Although
That's also my job.
looking at the calendar, I have a couple ideas. And then,
Okay, great.
yeah, but I would say the one after that is definitely going to be a heavy duty pre-show, because it's going to, oh no, it would be the one. Yeah, the one then would be at the 30th. So that one's going to be talking about, we will have a lot more information about both UB Energized and
Right.
Pretty United by then. So look at that to be a pre-show. And then we'll definitely create, I think we're going to create multiple episodes at both UV Energized and Pretty United. And we'll just have
I
to
think
see
so too.
yeah, we'll have to see how that all shakes out.
Okay.
All right. That's it for this week, and or this episode, and we will see you next episode.